A lot of this operates in this country, whereby even without demonstrable risk, the most achievable low-cost measures will be taken to reduce EMF exposure. So, the World Health Organization, now I could quote a lot of studies to you and there may become questions, but the World Health Organization is an example of regulatory capture. They did studies on the effect of EMF on populations. And guess who they got to overlook it? They got the utilities. The World Health Organization. There's so many examples of regulatory capture. I'm going to talk about matrimonial capture in a minute. The American College of Physicians, 3 site schools 300 to 500 feet away. Now that one we would, the picture of the blue circle in the school, that is 600 feet, which covers almost most of the school. So let's be very, very careful. Let's not risk increasing this electromagnetic field. With synergism, with lines we don't know are going to be coming down. Spain, prohibition of power lines near schools. Now near is not defined. Sweden, no houses within 30 feet of lines. No schools near power lines. The UK, homes are to be built more than 450 feet away from the power line. Australia, route power lines away from schools. Italy, they limit power lines near schools where people spend more than 4 hours a day. Connecticut, they bury them. Now, that, I may be anticipating questions here. So what if they just bury it? They do not like that. They're going to have to get a pipe with a dielectric, with an insulating cooling liquid in it, run the transmission lines through, and they can't see what's happening to them. They want to see what happens. If something goes wrong, they want to see. And this is the granite state, and that's going to be granite. And there are a lot of environmental, problems with blasting too. We have those problems. And can we trust them? You know, we say, okay, yes, we're agreed to this line, providing that by profile school you make dust or you bury it. Well, they get to and they come across some difficulties. Are they going to stop the whole thing? No, they're moving. This must not start. So Connecticut varies. California, they have their boundaries under 250 feet. I can go on and on. Prudent avoidance, all the states. So that's the situation where we are now. And I'll talk about just what I've done with Dr. Susan Lynch, who's married to our couple. This is where the matrimonial capture comes in. She won't talk to me. She's a pediatrician. So I talked to her aide-de-camp, her chief of staff, and we'll be going up there. And she said, well, she's not an expert in leukemia, but she's a pediatrician. You don't have to be an expert to be able to look at studies and make some, appropriate decisions. She won't talk to me. So I've got some tactics and strategy to talk about with you today. I call that matrimonial capture. Not regulatory, but she's not going to come up against her husband. Now, John Lynch, with our talks with him, and I don't know if you'll be involved talking, I know some of us have, what he has said very, very clearly, I'm not quite sure if he means this, he will respond to the people of New Hampshire, northern New Hampshire. He will listen to what they're saying. Now, 29 towns have incredibly come out unanimously against it. When did Sugar Hill have a unanimous meeting? Easton never does. Franconian, these were unanimous. 3,000 people, petitions, roughly. 300 people talked at Department of Energy meetings. We talked. We've had some incredible moments. One of the strategies, I think, that if we can get the children, the youngsters, and these cells are rapidly turning over in children. But if we can get the children to sing with Katie Rose, I don't know if some of you will know Katie Rose, she was just tremendous for us. We have now 4 songs associated with this grassroots movement. Katie Rose is just a professional, and that will be another strategy. So I think I've covered in fairly broad strokes most of the health issues. I can back up, hopefully, what I say. So just shoot the questions out.
I just want to clarify on a technicality, because I manned the booth the other day on our behalf. Yes, at the Lupin Festival. And so a man challenged me with, well, this is not going to be a health hazard because it is direct current, not alternating current, therefore no electromagnetic field. If what I heard you say is very likely to be a parallel alternating current line beside it. And besides that, who knows what else they might put in the future. But technically the gentleman is correct. If it is solely and only direct current, but the likelihood of that being the case with Northern Pass is very remote. That's what I'm hearing you say. That's
what I'm saying. I don't know if anybody disagrees. If you just put a single high voltage DC line down, the electromagnetic field will still be there. But you stick it next door to it in parallel an HVAC line, or you stick an AC on top of it. Still these big towers. I mean, I don't know if they can. I don't have the knowledge that Peter has and what they can actually do. And they made it very difficult for us to know what the towers are going to look like.
But I think that's an important point for all of us to be educated on, because already I encountered that. These are direct current. They will not cause childhood leukemia.
They will rebut, and they will say things to you like, that's one rebuttal. Oh, stop worrying, I mean, I got this. Cell phones. Now, unintended consequences, cell phones. You know, cell phones everywhere. Well, one argument against that, very clear, is the cell phone frequency is far faster than the extra low frequency that we're talking about. You can actually insulate it. And of course, last week, what did we hear?
Causes brain cancer.
More than 30 minutes a day for 10 years, a 40% increase in the incidence of a very aggressive glioblastoma, brain tumor. And, you know, of course, the message there for us is that those thin skull bones in kids, you know, we don't want, you know, that's another topic. But that's what they'll say. We've had no problem with cell phones, with phones. But of course now that's gone, that argument's gone. But you're right.
And if they had multiple DC lines on this in parallel?
I've seen one paper that talked about an increase in, and it wasn't electromagnetic field, it was just dirty electricity, corona effect. There are a lot of bad papers out there. And I've got to say, I would not stand behind that. I would have to say that, I mean, maybe not, but Peter.
Strategically, is there really any point in hammering the effects on the school when the kids are going to go home and live in houses which are probably, in some instances, closer to that line than this school is?
I think it makes a point. I think that if these, we don't know what the amount of time spent in that environment is. If we look at the unintended, we know that the incidence of leukemia has gone straight up. Is that due to situations like this? This may be just one of the situations. And if we increase that electromagnetic field, my argument is, what harm could we possibly be doing? And we don't know, so I've invoked the precautionary principle.
Yeah, I agree with you, Campbell. I'm just saying, if we concentrate too much upon the school, you know, you're diverting attention from what happens then when the kids go home and some of them are going to live in houses that are closer to.
Well, it's a good point. It's a good point. You know, as this line travels through inhabited areas, yes. The reason I think, because of the childhood leukemia and the collection of children, I felt it made impact. That's why I was concentrating on it. I could get at Susan Lynch. I could get her conscience. Maybe pillow talk might help. You know, that was, yes, Don.
But there's already ELC lines there. How much are they getting now from what's there already?
How much are they getting out? I measured it 2.6 on the outfield.
So is there some now?
Yeah.
On the outfield, 2.6. And the studies show that maybe down to 1 milligauss can be dangerous. But what we don't know is the duration of time spent in that environment. So if somebody's out in the field there, how long are they there? What's it doing?
Penetrate the walls of the building?
It's 1.6 in here.
Going back to the question about the direct current and the relationship between the direct and the alternating, with the existing line, which I would imagine will be remaining on the towers, and with a direct current added to it, will that right there increase the field from the alternating current?
Could you say that last sentence again, please?
Will the addition of a direct, with the addition of a direct current line to the existing
So
line?
if these towers go up to 135 feet, they put a DC line on it, do you expect your gauge to change?
Yes, well, yes.
Leaving the
I don't want to
existing
have that
line.
happen. The synergistic effect
Yes.
of the paralleling, though the DC by itself does not cause an electric magnetic field increase, the two together, even Hydro-Quebec have admitted, can cause some synergy and augmentation.
So we don't have any way of estimating any sort of effect, what multiplier might be, for example.
No.
I'm sure you've seen the pictures of people sticking fluorescent light bulbs
Yes.
in the ground under these lines. Am I assuming that those are AC lines based on what you're
Yes,
saying?
probably.
Not DC.
No. My argument will
I'm
be the two
really
together, you might have even more
sorry to
light.
hear that. All this
Saying
time
that
I
with
thought
the
they
two
were.
together, you might get augmentation.
Right.
So that's that alternating current. And who's to say they won't send down another alternating current line? I mean, as we mix up with the coarse loop and all those things we're talking about, what else is coming down? So my concern is, and I'm not politically correct. First of all, I do not like Quebec. The Canadians don't like Quebec. They are amoral. They have been talking to Russians about partnerships with dams, and they've done them in Chile. They helped out Three Gorges in China. They need the money. They've been in court so many times, Hydro-Quebec. So I feel this should stop for many, many reasons, and one of the major reasons is the children, and so focusing in on that. And my son's kids.
How about accidents on the line and breaches where there's stray voltage? Have there been studies
I
regarding
can't
that?
talk to that. There is an increased incidence squashed by Hydro-Quebec of acute lymphoblastic leukemia in line workers. The initial study came out, showed a pretty clear association that was suppressed. Well, they lost some papers.
Is there any knowledge about the latency period in children for
Sure.
leukemia, establishment leukemia? No.
No.
But did you call it acute leukemia?
No, the British did a study with, I think, 23,000 children. They mapped them around the lines. They showed that within 600 feet, there was a 70% increase in the incidence of leukemia. 70%. They just mapped where the kids live. They didn't go into time. The ages 0 to 5 and 5 to 15. 0 to 5, those young cells, of course, multiplying very, very rapidly in the elementary schools. And then the older children getting more stable. But that's what they discovered. That study was an outlier in that you had a bunch of studies right in the middle agreeing more or less that there was this doubling, whereas the British study stood out here as no, it's about 70%. But that was a big study.
And the way they've been bouncing around, who's to say the line's going to be there? It may be 3/4 of a mile over the hill and going through somebody else's yard as they're doing it north.
And I have discovered other schools, daycare down in Campton, that's actually in the right angle, 200 feet away from where the line takes a right angle. So you can imagine the melange, what's happening in that sort of little triangle there.
I think it's very important that this issue be continued to be raised and elevated, and morally, one additional case of childhood leukemia is not acceptable.